Katie Kempner, and welcome to Perspectives at the Ipsos Girls Lounge at the Cannes Lion Festival. Right now, I'm excited to be talking with Lizzie Widhelm, who is the Vice President of Digital of Pandora. Welcome.
Thank you.
So how about we start by just talking a little bit about your job and what you do?
Yeah, so I've been at Pandora for 8.5 years, and we're here in Cannes. So Pandora is a US streaming radio service. My specific role there is to help bring new ad products to market. So, Cannes is important to me for that role, to come see what's happening, what's new, what's creative. I also work with our strategic accounts in the US to, create packaging and opportunities for them to reach their end consumer on Pandora, whether that be moms or Hispanics or, high-income men. And we kind of pull that all together. And so it's been fun to meet with those partners here and dream up new ideas for next year.
Can you talk a little bit about your career trajectory, how you wound up at Pandora?
So I, graduated from school in the finance accounting trajectory. Started there kind of in the summer and decided, wow, this is not for me. I definitely have so much personality. I keep getting into trouble. Not square enough maybe for that industry. And a friend of mine was saying this digital thing is kind of happening, and this is 1999. I said, okay, this sounds great. New, young people, everyone attracted to this industry. And I've been in digital my entire career.
Really?
So short of the summer I spent, waffling and wiggling around finance, I started obviously in the .com kind of ramp up, and had a really good go there. Met my husband in the business, so that's always fun. He was the VP of Engineering at the time, and I was the Director of Sales. But about, 8.5 years ago, I had just had my first child, and I kind of was deciding what I was going to do. Was I going to stay at home? And I just couldn't see myself doing that. I had too much passion for the space. And this thing, Pandora, was kind of just starting to bubble up. Clients had been telling me about it, and the rest is history. And I've played totally different roles at Pandora, everything from sales to product development to, strategic planning. I kind of weasel into a lot of conversations.
Some women sort of think that they need to map out their career, some don't. So do you think it's more about the company that you're with and then you can find things within it, or?
Yes.
What do you suggest?
For me, I'm most successful, passionate, engaged, lit up when I'm around other people that are like-minded, that want to blow through doors, that don't take no for an answer, that want to have fun when we're done, but work hard, play hard, but show up at 8 o'clock even if they were out till 3 a.m. That's my kind of team. And I just found that at Pandora, and I hadn't had that in previous roles. And I always, wondered why, looking back, why did I stay somewhere 3 years versus 8.5? And it wasn't usually about my day-to-day. It was usually about the energy I got from the rest of the team. And that energy at Pandora is still so awesome. And it's women, it's men, it's old, it's young.
Well, we were talking about something before we started this about women talking to women, and you had a very interesting view that I'd love to just talk about now. What do you think the dynamic is?
I think there's a good story for this. Last night we were up late just kind of rehashing the week, and there was some women there, and they had been exposed to a bunch of content here, and we were talking about, meeting new women. And I was giving one of the girls a piece of feedback or an opinion on something, and one of the guys next to me was like, oh, you're just meeting Lizzie for the first time. She's just direct. She'll just say it like it is. And the girl kind of looked at me for a second, and I thought, oh God, I've made an enemy now. And she says, you know what? We should all be more like that. There's a little bit too much dancing around. Hey, yeah, you could do it that way. Or how about, no, I've already tried that. I made the mistake. You don't have to repeat it. Here's what I'd recommend instead. And I don't know. I think when we get down to it, especially in this business and at this level, your feelings aren't going to be hurt. And over time, you're looking for that direct feedback. It's sometimes hard to ask for. And unsolicited feedback is tough because that's different, right?
Right.
But when someone says, what would you do here? Don't waffle.
So I'm assuming that you're very direct, and I'm an extremely direct person, which I have learned over the years works really well in some cases, and in some instances, maybe I need to round the edges a little bit. Do you think that then, as a woman talking to a man, I assume you have the same approach of being direct, that sometimes you can come across as pushy?
Yeah.
And is that a bad thing?
I don't care. I love it. Early on in my career, I felt nervous about that. And then I kept getting invited to more meetings where more decisions were being made. And I kept speaking up, and I kept getting opportunity. and promotions. And I was also invited to meetings where I didn't need to be, but where they wanted my perspective.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do hang back, and I'm a good listener, and I prepare. You know, I want to make sure I have the right answer before I need it. But it served me well.
That's key too. It's not just that you're opinionated, it's that your opinions are based on knowledge, and that you know when to, you know, I think it's most effective when you know when to say something and when not to say something, you know.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys that work in our office that always think about athletic analogies. And when you're going to have that big game, sometimes you don't know it until you get there, but if you're really, really well prepared, you have the best shot at winning. So I read a lot. I, you know, watch what the competition's doing. I'm a student of this craft, and I think you have to be.
Some people just sort of fall off and they stop learning new things, and I think that's really a very dangerous thing to do. And boring.
So boring. I think as I'm, you know, getting older, I'm actually more interested in learning new things and more things. And one of the things I love about my role at Pandora is in January, when I switched over to this kind of more product-facing role, I now interface with engineers and product managers, and for the first 2 months, I felt like the dumbest girl in the room, and I didn't understand some of the acronyms. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I figured it out in less than 2 weeks, read up, late nights, put the kids to bed, 3 hours of reading and searching and finding information. I didn't say a lot of things in those early meetings, and now I'm kind of like this silent assassin that I feel like has come from sales, and they're like, what did she say? I think that's important too.
Yeah.
You can't just always kind of run rickshaw into a meeting that you might not know anything about.
Yeah.
So I'm super direct in what I'm an expert in, and then I'm a good listener and give really good feedback when I can, but I don't always have an answer. And sometimes I'll say, I don't have an opinion on that. I don't know enough about it, and that's okay too.
Well, you mentioned your kids, and you have 3 kids.
I have 3 boys.
That's a lot of boys.
I know. They're great.
So you're outnumbered in your family.
Yes, I know. But what I say about boys is if you run them and feed them, they're fine. So you just need a trampoline, bikes, and maybe a dog. That's the next thing we have to consider.
I have one of each, and
I'm jealous. I kept trying for the girl. Now I just adopt young sales girls and help them along.
That works too.
Help dress them and do their hair.
But I'd love to just ask how you've been able to manage your career and having 3 kids when you're, doing so many things. And you had said to me that your husband also has a very challenging career and travels a lot too.
I was a nanny growing up, so I always knew there was going to be a lot of kids in the picture. I don't think I knew I'd have this sort of career, but then somewhere after college, during that time frame, I figured out I would. And so this quest for the perfect husband had a whole different set of filters on it, right? Wanted a guy, obviously, that loved kids, but also needed a guy that wanted to be a dad. I mean, not just a father, but a real dad, leaning in, willing to go do the things where all the moms were there and he was the only guy in the room. And he jokes about that. He says, should I wear my Lululemon shorts today so I fit in with your friends?
That's funny.
And he's a trooper about it. He embraces it. Some days I think are harder for others when we're sharing the job of being parents, and it's a little more unnatural for him to be there playing the role of bringing birthday cake, to the 10:30 birthday party on a Wednesday at school. You can probably relate to that. But he's awesome, and I could never do this without him. We kind of have the week on, week off, try to, do the calendar thing. I think one of our biggest tips, and we had a dinner Sunday night with a bunch of girls. One of the girls leaned over to me. She said, I heard you have 3 kids. What's the trick? I said, a spreadsheet. Every night, a spreadsheet review, and every Sunday, a family calendar.
Really?
Yes. We calendar like you can't imagine.
You're so organized.
We calendar travel time along with events. So if there's a t-ball game, there's like a 15-minute window for getting dressed and a 30-minute window for travel. Because otherwise it's a gong show. Like, how can you do anything else? I lay all my clothes out the night before. I mean, I'm kind of militant about what I know has to get done.
For the kids too?
Everybody. Yes.
For your husband too?
Yeah, and we have a staging area.
What?
Yeah, it's my tip for all women. In your home, develop a staging area, which the night before, all the backpacks go out. The lunches, the clothes, the instructions, the permission slips, your bag. At 10, you should be able to get up, feed yourself, get dressed, and get your backpack and be on the front steps at 7:30.
Wow, I'm
Right?
blown away by this.
But there's no other option.
Yeah.
You know, if you were going to lead 5 people to battle, you would be
You would
prepared.
want them to be prepared.
You'd want them to know how to pack their, ammo, gun, and food.
You're right, you're right. So, but the other part that you had said when we were talking about balancing is that you outsource a lot. And,
Yes.
Of course you have to. I did too, but I would love to hear your take on it.
So my husband and I kind of agree on this motto that if it is not pulling at your heart and emotionally you are not connected to a certain task, outsource. That's the filter. So every once in a while when I'm having that moment on a Wednesday night where it's like, oh, I feel so guilty, I can't go on this field trip. He's like, are you emotionally invested in a trip to the zoo? Are you really gonna have quality time with number 2 child, right? I'm like, no, you're right. I'm gonna be herding around 7 other kindergartners and it's not quality time. I could get that same hour by taking him for donuts on Sunday morning.
Right.
And it's gonna save that much time and allow me to work on that Wednesday. So that's kind of the filter I put on it, and then everything else gets outsourced or not signed up for, right? So outsourcing shopping. I don't do food shopping. I know what I like, I know where to get it, it's outsourced. That's just a good example. Every once in a while you do a farmer's market. If you have time to do a beautiful Sunday dinner for your family, that's great. But I'm not gonna be sitting at night like, oh God, we need milk.
Yeah.
It's just too much stress added onto the already challenging job. And if you don't have that headspace, you can't be creative, you can't think ahead. You're just in the here and the now. And I don't know if you can grow the career you want for yourself if you don't free up the time to have a moment of reflection.
I always say to the people that work with me, and it's a work thing, but it really is what you're talking about too. It's like, if we need to be proactive, not reactive. And if we spend all of our time on all these tasks, we will never be looking at the big picture.
Exactly.
And really that's what you're talking about too, is not getting so distracted and being lucky enough to be able to outsource some of these things so that you can concentrate on the big picture.
Yeah.
So I like to just end my interviews by asking if you have one piece of advice that you can share with us that has really helped you throughout your career.
Don't listen to anything in the car. No, because I spend all my best thinking is in the car and the shower. 2 places
We listen
where
to Pandora in the car.
Oh, you do? Two places where I can be alone. Don't be afraid to take risks. You're not going to go to jail. You're not going to, of course, with those kind of risks you can. But internally, don't be afraid to take risks, and don't be afraid to find someone that you think has an interesting perspective or is doing interesting things at your company or elsewhere to bounce ideas off of. And that doesn't have to be a mentor that's older than you and more seasoned. It might be someone that's younger than you. It might be someone in a totally different trade. I have a lot of friends that do things totally different than me. And I often find the most valuable insights are from my women friends that are physicians, or attorneys, or running a retail store. One girl that gives me some of the best advice runs a very small boutique. And she just always has good zingers that bring me back to reality. And I think that opens me up to be, more successful in life. And I think my last tip, which you only asked for one, but I'll give you a second.
I would welcome another.
Be a really good communicator, verbal communicator. It's easy to write an email 11 times. Pick up the phone, talk to real people, ask real questions, be confident in that. And if you're not, get help, get public speaking training, work with someone that you see is never afraid to get out there. I think that can often hold, women back. Some of the smartest women, I don't think, get out enough.
Well, as a communicator, that particularly is great advice. It all was. It was wonderful talking with you. Thank you.
So nice to meet you. Thank you.